Hello everybody, John here from the Sports Department, going over the 4-game LPL LCK slate for tonight. This one not quite as exciting as the last 2 days. I feel like the last 2 days were some serious banger slates. This one's going to be a little bit less interesting, but on the DFS side I think it's not too bad, just from the pure fan perspective, maybe not quite as exciting. I did switch over to using this season's statistics where I could for the stats that are on the right side of my page here. That said, we're going to have to use a lot of nuance when looking at these stats, especially since most of these teams have only played one match so far this season. But I wanted to start getting used to using them just to see how they looked in their first matchups, but it's going to take a lot of nuance to discuss them, like I said, so don't jump too hard on statistics. But LGD is the first matchup, minus 155 against UltraPrime, who's plus 120. So immediately we're going to have to start using that nuance we were talking about. LGD in their first match of the year played against Rare Atom. They lost that match. UltraPrime lost their first match of the season playing against FPX, but they took a game off of FPX, which is pretty impressive. The stats, the way that they line up at the moment, 1772 for LGD, 1825 for UltraPrime. A little bit better GDM for LGD. LGD was much more objective focused in their first match, 167 versus 33 and 0. We got significantly more dragons, and at 15 minutes they were about 500 gold better. That said, LGD's first opponent was a lot tougher than UltraPrime's, or a lot weaker than UltraPrime's. UltraPrime playing against FPX, LGD against Rare Atom. I think Rare Atom's a pretty good team, but you have to give a little bit of a, either nerf to the LGD stats or buff to the UltraPrime stats. It's weird that UltraPrime has an 1825 GPM, which is a pretty good number, despite the rest of their stats all being terrible, comparatively. A little bit interesting there. But I do think LGD is a pretty solid favorite here. I think they're probably cash playable. I hate UltraPrime. They looked good in their first match, but I hate the players that they have on their team. I think that they're going to have a pretty bad season. And I could see LGD coming out and being pretty decent in the first half of the split, especially with some veterans on the roster. So I think LGD makes a lot of sense, and when you look at these KPWs and DPLs from their first match, 21, 19.5 to 20, 21, huge KPW DPL. So this feels like a match you want to be pretty heavy on. I would go as far as to say, probably in GPPs, these two teams are probably going to need to be 4 stacks in a pretty heavy number of your lineups. The second match of the day contends for it, though. WE minus 900, they're 1-0 on the season, up against TT plus 500, who is 0-1 on the season. WE beat Suning first time out. TT lost to JDG. And the stats are going to be pretty stark. I'm a little scared by this number because WE won their first match. And 1777, not super impressive as a GPM, especially for a winning team. Suning does grind games a little bit, so I could see it being a little bit lower for that reason, but I'm a little bit worried for WE at that 1777 number. That said, this matchup probably shouldn't be really too losable for them. The stats are obviously pretty heavily in their favor. Plus 1333 at 15 minutes to minus 3100. Now keep in mind, it's just one match. You're not going to see TT end up at minus 3100 at the end of the season, but it's probably not going to go too well for them in this one, I don't think. WE seems like the another premium cash playable play, significantly more so than LGD. Most importantly, though, you're dealing with another game that has huge KPW DPL from their first matchups. 19.5 for WE, 25 DPL, 22 DPL for TT when they played against JDG. Now, admittedly, JDG is one of the bloodier teams in the league, so them giving up 22 to JDG, their DPL is going down for sure. WE, though, Suning, not traditionally a super bloody team, getting a 19.5 kill per win out of 2 wins against them might tell you that WE is looking to make some action in the future. So, WE looking really, really good. Either member of this game looking really, really, really good. Huge GPPs, maybe you play some TT. I think I'm probably going to fade away from TT and just not be there for the one time they win a series this year. I think I'll just let myself not be there for that one. If you go over to the LCK, Damwon up against KT, Damwon minus 1400, KT at plus 700. For the nuance on their stats, Damwon did play against T1. It was a heck of a series, which is part of the reason why their goal differential at 15 minutes is minus 536, even though they did win the series. T1 put it on them in the early game for the most part. First Bloods and First Turrets very low for Damwon. KT, they have a plus 1898, but this is from one game. They had one game where they were up about 6,000, and then they just weren't that far behind at 15 minutes to like balance this stat out to a negative in their other two games that they lost. So they are 0-1 on the season. They lost to Nongshim, correct? Yes. Lost to Nongshim Red Force. Damwon Gaming picking up their win against T1, as we talked about before. Statistically, Damwon's just going to be better. I mean, we're still early in the season. KT with some higher numbers on First Blood, First Turret, but they were in a much easier matchup. I think you expect, obviously, Damwon to get the job done at minus 1,400. They're obviously very cash playable. It is worth noting, though, that the KPW DPL for Korea, in general, has been significantly lower than the LPL. You're going to see it here, and you're going to see it more so in the last match of the day. So this is we might be getting back to that place where in the big GPPs and stuff, you just try to fade Korea as a way to get away from ownership. I mean, it's not like a team like Damwon's not going to have pretty decent ownership when they're playing against KT. They're minus 1,400 favorites. Damwon's going to have some ownership. So if you fade off of this match, you're definitely going to get some ownership advantage. That said, Damwon could definitely score well here. I would not count that out at all. The last match of the day, DRX at minus 150 up against Afrika plus 115. This is probably the most interesting matchup of the day. DRX lost their first match, but it was to Gen G, and Afrika won their first match, but it was against Brion. So basically, Afrika has beaten a bad team. DRX has lost to a good team. So the way it's going to line up right now is Afrika is just going to crush them statistically. 1793 to 1610, plus 150 to minus 263. Numbers versus zeros. 46 versus 35. But that's mostly because of the opponents, I think. DRX did not look good in their first match, but they were getting beaten up by Gen G. I will say, as much as the stats kind of deceive you, I do feel like Afrika is probably a reasonable underdog here, like maybe even should be the favorite. I didn't think that DRX looked impressive in their first match against Gen G. Afrika didn't exactly look great against Brion, but I think there's a reasonable argument that Afrika could be actually be the favorite in this matchup. But can we even play them when the KPW DPLs for this match top out at 14.5? This is a pretty fadeable game. I think the only spot where I may end up playing this game, you could play Afrika to try to get yourself a sweet stack of LGD or WE or somebody like that. Or if you wanted to, if you were in like I think like the perfect field size for this would be like 50 or 60 people. If you're in something that's like 50 or 60 people, a DRX 4 stack probably makes you the only person in the tournament that has a DRX 4 stack, and there's always some chance that one of these games just goes long and DRX scores really, really well. So I think somewhere like the 50 to 100 person range, you might try a 4 DRX stack. That anything bigger than that, a 4 DRX could still be good, but then you're risking chopping there, and you'd have to do something else to make it a little bit more odd, probably. So I think that's a good field size for DRX. If you're in the bigger fields and you want to do Afrika just to try to get a better stack somewhere else, or to just get a unique lineup, I think that works too. But this feels like the fadeable match here, and definitely not cash playable for me. So, looking at the ownerships, I think you're going to see WE be the highest and Damwon in second, the two biggest favorites on the slate. People tend to lean LPL, so I'll go WE as the highest. It could be Damwon highest. Then I think you'll see LGD. People seem to like this team. They're in a good matchup. But this is where I think it's a little bit interesting. I think you're going to see both UltraPrime and Afrika be higher owned than DRX. I think if you polled people, they would tell you that DRX was more likely to win this, but I don't think people are going to go to DRX in their lineups very often, since Afrika can get you a sweet stack of a Damwon or a WE. And DRX is a little bit tougher to do it with. I think that people will play a little bit more of Afrika and UltraPrime as a way to get some of these bigger stacks in there. And then the bottom two, I'm fairly confident, will be TT and KT. TT and KT, both huge underdogs. KT probably the least likely to be played because they also have roster issues that people are not going to want to wake up in the middle of the night to figure out. So it seems fair to assume that those two will probably be the lowest. For cash playable teams, I don't think I'm going to mess with this DRX Afrika game if I can help it. Maybe you could try something like an Afrika one-off. Let's see how the stacks look, and maybe we'll consider it. Damwon, definitely cash playable. WE, definitely cash playable. And I think you could play LGD too. So you could go Damwon WE, Damwon LGD, WE LGD as the combinations. Now let's see how ugly these look, because, well, first I want to look at the favorites first and just see who looks like they're out to score well. Let me get rid of the people that aren't playing. This just makes my life harder. Okay, we go by projection. There's an incorrect long G in there. WE, Dragon X, Damwon, LGD actually the lowest when it comes to the top lane. In the jungle, WE again, LGD, Damwon, Dragon X in last. In the mid lane, WE, Damwon, LGD, Dragon X. So Dragon X, like, universally the lowest except for the top lane, where they do pretty well, but they look like they're universally like the lowest scorer anyway, so I don't think there's any reason to even mess with Dragon X. Of these other three, WE the clear number one. There's too many teams there. WE the clear number one, LGD looking like they're second, so you'd kind of want to play WE LGD if you could do it. Let's see, let's start with WE LGD, see what that comes up with here. Make sure that fake team isn't here. They give you Mole Captain. It's a 3-3. Could I get a fourth WE if I went like ZA Captain? No, that doesn't save you any money anyway. They're pretty much the same. So the only way to get the mid captain, I'm guessing, is to go with the 3-3. Yeah, Elk more expensive, Missing more expensive. This has got to be the only way to do it. 607.5. Not the worst lineup. Let's see what we come up with Damwon LGD. Shadow Captain 3-3. Just once again doing a quick check to see if it looks like they might be switchable. It uses max salary for this, so I'm guessing not. So I'll just put this down because I don't think we're going to end up choosing it anyway. Let's look at WE and Damwon. That one seems more likely to be valid. Support Captain 4-2, pretty standard, but a 574.1. So the WE LGD popping off the page. That said, let's put this back up here real quick. So you get a 607.5 out of this. This is a night where I feel like you could go for a weird move, and I do these every once in a while. I actually did it last night, but it's not super common for me, but it feels like a night where you could maybe go for a weird move, which is to play a one-off from somebody like Afrika, because I think Afrika has a pretty good chance to win, but they're extremely cheap. And so you could maybe pick up something like, let's see, would Afrika team do anything? Probably not. Usually you don't save enough money that way, but let's see, does Afrika team get us anywhere? 600 more, that's 800 more. Oh wait, no, against Shadow, 400 more. Breathe, 600 more than Garvey. Yeah, it's not going to leave you enough to get a good support there. So probably, but you could maybe do Keen with like Elk, Beishan, not ZA, Mole, Missing, oh, not Fly, what the heck. And then like LGD team, does that give you enough for Kramer? No. Sometimes you can make a move like this to like get yourself the like the 4-stack that you want and like an impressive version of it. It doesn't look like Afrika is going to help us too much. What if I did? Because like this is a slate where I kind of want Elk and Kramer. Both of those guys are really high scoring for their team, and I'd really like to get both of them. But in order to do that, I would have to find. I would want to get it with 4 WE players. So I'm trying to find like any possible way to do that, but it doesn't look like it's really... If you were willing to play 2 Afrika, but I think that's too far. I don't mind doing this with 1 Afrika sometimes. Just throw 1 Afrika in somewhere. What if I switched to like... If I switched to Leo and made Elk my captain, and then played like, say, Garvey and Missing. This only leaves you 5,000, so it doesn't do you any good on this slate, but something worth considering. I will do that every once in a while. If like WE is unanimously the best team on the slate, you really want to have 4 of them according to all the metrics that we have. I really want Elk and Kramer because those are 2 guys that their teams tend to play through a lot. If there's a way to get me the double 80 carry stack that plays a one-off of Afrika, who I think is like 50% or better to win, I think that's all right sometimes. But I think given what we've seen, probably you just tune out that idea for this slate since the Afrika player doesn't really help you, and just go with the 3-3 with Mole, Breathe, Beishang, ZA, Kramer, Mark, and LGD team. I think I just end up with that one. So that'll be all for today, guys. Good luck tonight. The King of the Rift qualifiers are back as of tonight's slate, so good luck if you're shooting for that. I only have 1 ticket so far. Definitely looking to get more than that, so we'll see how it goes. Good luck to us all. I'll talk to you guys later. Have a good one.